We are live and in studio with Pat Munsey, Editor-in-Chief. Welcome, Pat.
I'm not on the screen.
No, you're on the screen for them.
Good morning.
So what's going on in newspaper land?
Well, I don't know. You did not properly introduce me before my segment.
I know, and you'll have to forgive me. Normally, I introduce people who are coming on the show.
So I'm
Pat's
kind of
feelings
I'm
are hurt.
surprised. No one knew I was going to be here.
Surprise!
Unannounced guest. And you didn't announce weather phone either.
I didn't. 457-9211. Up to the minute weather just for you. 457-9211.
There. Now that's out of the way. We can talk.
So what's going on in newspaper land?
Well, last night was our new governor's State of the State address. Did you watch this?
I didn't.
You didn't.
I was busy watching clips of Beyonce, whether or not she.
Oh right, the
Lip
lip
sync.
sync. I think that Governor Pence lip synced.
He might
Pretty
have.
sure.
I doubt it, though.
No. Okay.
So tell me about the speech.
He talked about all kinds of stuff last night. One of the most important things, the thing that people are going to talk about the most, is his call for a 10% across the board income tax cut.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Sounds great, right?
Yeah, but you always know that there's another shoe.
There is definitely another shoe. And if anybody who read our paper this week, they'll realize that that's at direct cross purposes with a bill that Senator Jim Buck is proposing, which would shift a certain amount of depreciation on business personal property, which would be equipment for large and medium and small businesses, manufacturing equipment and trucks and things like that. Move the depreciation schedule down, shift the burden on to other taxpayers like you and me.
Okay, I was going to say, now, who are those other?
Specifically people who own real estate
Uh-huh.
and pay taxes on it annually. It would shift about $8 million over to those individuals. And part of that problem involved in that is we have property tax caps in Indiana.
Right.
So there's only so much that we can pay before we hit the cap, and then
ceiling.
government loses that income. So all of us take an increase in our property taxes. Local government sees an increase or a loss of revenue. And then to replace that lost revenue, Mr. Buck has suggested that local units of government institute new sales and income taxes to offset that. So we want to solve the property tax shift with an income tax, but Governor Pence would like to eliminate an income tax. And you have to wonder, are they talking?
Have they picked up the phone?
I mean, we all want less taxes. I mean,
Sure.
that sounds great. Oh yeah.
And we're still trying to recover from the 2% that we just got back, correct?
Right. Well, yeah, we'll be getting some money back here pretty soon. Oh, you're talking about Social Security.
Right.
That's at the federal level, right?
Yeah.
And that wasn't income tax. That wasn't really federal budget. And there's some misconception about where that money came from. In 2010, President Obama reduced the amount of money that we had to pay into Social Security for 2 years. That's over, and that 2% came back. A lot of people say, "Oh, we just got a tax increase."
Technically,
No,
it wasn't.
Just a 2-year tax rebate.
And I know that doesn't
expired.
have, and I know that doesn't have anything to do with what we were talking about, but
It's all taxes.
I think that is a misconception that people had.
So yeah, we've got some interesting things going on here. We've had our taxes restored on Social Security, and now Mr. Buck would like to shift some taxes over onto the homeowner shoulders, and then Governor Pence would like to eliminate income tax at the state level. So I'm starting to wonder where exactly we're going to find the money to finance government, because local government relies on those income taxes. The state government relies on those income taxes. Most of education is now financed through those income and sales taxes at the state level. So if we're taking a 10% cut across the board, you have to wonder what services will be reduced.
Do you have a guess, without getting in trouble, of what?
Do I have a guess? I have no idea where this 10% is going to come from. Now, to the governor's credit, he submitted a budget last week, right after he took office, that is under the rate of inflation, that is pretty much flat on spending, has a 1% increase to public education, which isn't keeping pace with other states as far as the amount of investment, but more than 60% of our state budget goes to education as is. So it's one of those difficult things. How much money do we spend for the return that we get? I don't have any answer on where that cut's going to be, where that 10% is going to come off. We can't take it off of infrastructure spending because that's approaching a crisis. For the last 8 years. We've had a really good situation in the state with our infrastructure, our road funding, because of a combination of lottery proceeds.
Sure.
Because the lotteries
Big,
funded that for
huge,
a long
yeah.
time. But we also had the major moves money, and that was where Governor Daniels had sold the toll road up in northern Indiana to finance road and street funding throughout the state. Well, at the end of this year, that money will be exhausted.
Wow.
I believe we have less than $400 million left in that pot. And if you're wondering where that money went, just look east of town and you can see the US 31 project. That's that's a major moves project right there. So that's the kind of thing that money went toward. But we're running out of that. And I didn't see or hear anything in Governor Pence's speech about how we would fix that problem. He did talk that they're putting $378 million into road and street funding this year, but that's the end of the major moves money. That's not like it's money he just suddenly found. It was already there. After that, well, the question is, what are you going to do? And I didn't hear an answer last night. I didn't see an answer in the encapsulated budget release that we saw. So I have some concerns about.
All in all, do you think it was promising, or I mean,
there were a lot of good things in last night's speech. His concentration on vocational education, I fully support that. I think that's great. I've struggled with the way that our state has approached education for the last 20 years, in that we're all about being able to pass a standardized test, and everyone has to have math and science. I can tell you that there are a lot of people that just math and science are not their thing. And during that entire period of time, we saw industrial arts programs and things like that drop off at the high school level. Lesser funding, fewer teachers, and fewer people going into the field to teach it as well.
Sure.
That causes a problem when you get into the public sector then, because we have small businesses that need skilled tradesmen or need people coming out of high school or college, vocational school, with skills like welding and pipe fitting and things like that.
Sure.
And we are at a deficit for that type of skill, and that's a skill that's always in demand. So Governor Pence rightly recognized that, and he is proposing that we invest more in that. And how could that be a bad thing, really?
Sure.
I mean, especially if we're not particularly taking away from what we're doing in secondary education for people who want a college degree. There are a lot of federal programs and scholarships and things like that make up a good portion of that. So I think he can shift some of this money, do some additional expenditures in that field, and increase vocational training for our students. One great way to do that's Ivy Tech.
Sure.
We have a great Ivy Tech campus.
A great campus here.
In Kokomo. They do a lot of work, and good work, and they send thousands of students through there. I don't know how many they graduated last year, but I believe they said it was close to a record
We're very
class.
lucky to have IUK and Ivy Tech right here locally in our community.
Absolutely. So I would expect that some of the funding to increase vocational training would necessarily end up at Ivy Tech here in Kokomo. So that should be some new educational opportunities for people here who may not see a four-year college as an acceptable career path for them, that they want to get into that vocational training. Another place I think that money will end up is at the Kokomo Area Career Center.
Oh, wow, yeah.
They have a lot of vocational schools. A lot of people think of vocational school as just the welding and the pipe fitting and carpentry and things like that, but vocational schools address a lot more things. I think culinary arts is a vocation. Hairdressing is a vocation. There are any number of things.
Right. Because a lot of people take that for granted, that those crafts that they use or those services that they use every day, there is training involved in those.
Right.
So.
Now, personally, I don't see the value in a hairdresser.
Why?
Well,
I'm just kidding. We'll be right back with Pat Munsey in a minute. We are back with Patrick Munsey.
Yeah, even though they try to shush me all the time.
They do.
Shh, we're going back on the air. Really? I think I'm supposed to talk then, right? Okay.
So more about the governor.
Right, because he talked forever.
Hey,
so
that's what they do.
So
they want to calm us down. They want to reassure us. They want to bring us to the next level. So
yeah, he said he wanted to bring us from a good state to a great state. Now I'm sure Governor Daniels thought we were already at that great level.
Sure.
But yeah, maybe there's higher that we can go. He did announced a lot of things that he wanted to do that I would definitely agree with. In his next budget, he's talking about Medicaid funding, that we are fully funding the projections for Medicaid, which is great, even though I know he is going to oppose the Affordable Care Act and any implementation of that.
Sure.
Here, at least, he's not going to stand in the way of funding what we're mandated to fund. So I have to laud that. And, like it or not, we have this Affordable Care Act, and it needs to be funded, and that health care needs to be provided to people.
And again, that is a whole nother debate. That is a whole nother show. That is a whole segment that could take days and days and days, because it's been heavily debated.
It has been.
It's been heavily argued.
Absolutely. And he's going to fund what we have to fund this year, so that's good. Also increase some funding for the Department of Child Services, which is popular with people who like to see children protected, not as popular with people who think that the Child Protective Services gets a little too involved in people's lives. But the fact that we're going to commit to an investment to make sure that children are safe, I have to support that.
Yeah, and let's be honest, saving one child is worth the money, to me, in my opinion. Not that of the staff and management.
Right. And then, of course, he touted the fact that we have a balanced budget, that he submitted a balanced budget. I'm glad he did, since we have a constitutional edict that we have to submit a balanced budget. So thank you for that honestly balanced budget, for doing your job as required. I'm very pleased with that.
Wow.
So he even talked about gun control briefly.
You're kidding. That was quite the hot topic then.
It is still a hot topic.
Did he take a position?
No, not really.
Oh,
no.
He was a fence kind of guy like myself.
It's hard to take a position. I mean, I've never handled a gun. I've never fired a gun. So I'm probably not the best person to decide whether or not you get a gun. But hey, the Second Amendment says you can have guns, so I say you can have guns. I'm fine.
What
with
did he say?
It's okay to have guns. I don't think he's going to go Second Amendment was wrong.
Are you sure?
No, I'm not sure. But I'm pretty sure he likes guns.
Okay.
Pretty sure. And I'm fine with it. I think if you feel like you need a gun to protect yourself, then by all means have a gun. Do you need a gun that shoots, 500 rounds a minute? I don't know. Maybe you're just not a really good shot.
Maybe.
So, assault weapon bans, I don't care. No, I'm not going to go out there and march against or for it. I thought we had a good point-counterpoint in this week's perspective, where the NRA gave their 10 reasons why we should not ban assault weapons, and local attorney Dan May talked about how there's no reason for someone to have an assault weapon. Hey, they both make science.
It's a heated argument, just like everything else. So
I promise you this: I will not shoot you.
That's nice.
I will not shoot God's creatures. I'm not going to go out and hunt raccoons and bears. And
they have grocery stores for you.
Yes, I will let someone else shoot my meat.
So what else did he talk about?
Those were pretty much the highlights.
And did you honestly feel like did you get a sense, I guess, I'll put you on the spot, did you get a sense that he cares, or that he does have a good plan, or that the direction that he wants to go is right for us?
I think in his way he cares. I think he definitely has a vision for the state. I may not agree with it completely, but then I've never agreed with any governor we've had completely. Anyone who completely agrees with a politician probably isn't thinking for themselves. Pence is a great politician. He knows how to say the right things at the right time, and you have to give him credit for that. I don't know that he'll be good or bad for our state yet. It's too early to tell. I'm not real happy on his stance when it comes to labor, organized labor. I know that he's going to take a dim view toward teachers' unions during his first term, and I don't believe that is a proper approach to improving education, to assault teachers and their collective bargaining rights. We've already seen a questionnaire come out from the Republican caucus in the State House, really pushing toward a more restrictive paycheck protection law, which would allow teachers to opt out of paying union dues, which they already can freely. So I'm not sure exactly why the question's in the questionnaire, why there's a push for this when we already have this option, other than it's a way to try to further destabilize unions. And I don't believe that is good for our state or our nation, either one. People need to be able to collectively congregate, negotiate, and have a voice. It's not a bad thing. I mean, if we decentralize the power of the people to express their wishes toward our government, that's working at cross purposes of how our government was founded.
And in general, it's always nice to have somebody who knows what you're talking about, who shares the same compassions, or at least has a voice for you in general.
Right.
Not advocating for or against. I'm just saying it's nice to be able to go to that person and say, hey, look, here's the situation.
Sure. And, I know a lot of people have, misgivings about unions and feel like they destroy companies. And my counter to that is, well, if the companies had good leadership, they would know what they could, agree to and what they couldn't for their own health. it's not just one side that ruins a relationship, it's a two-way street. So if the state of Indiana has done a poor job of negotiating with teachers, or before them with the state workers that used to be unionized before Daniels destroyed that ability, or if cities have trouble negotiating with their police and fire departments, or if a company has trouble negotiating with their union that represents their workers, it's not necessarily a failing of the union that causes these things. It has to be a failure on both sides. All you have to do is look at the city of Philadelphia. The city of Philadelphia had an overpowered union for many years, and Governor Ed Rendell, who was mayor of Philadelphia at that time, negotiated some of the biggest concessions in the history of that union. And everyone thought, well, here's an anti-union mayor, he's going to be awful.
Sure.
But he saw where there were savings that could be made, where there were work rules that were unreasonable, and didn't give away the farm for the city of Philadelphia. And as a result, Philadelphia turned around fiscally during his first term as mayor. So you don't have to destroy the union in the process, because that union is still strong to this day. They scream like stuck pigs, like you would if you're having things taken from you, right? I mean, that's part of the failing of the union. Is sometimes the union doesn't see, the greater wisdom in some of the concessions or some of the unrealistic gains that they received at the table over the years. Everyone wants to fight to protect what they've got. That's just human nature. But we can't blame unions, and we can't blame government. We can't blame business. It happens on both sides. So I hope that Governor Pence doesn't take a punitive approach toward the teachers' unions or toward organized labor in general. The right to work legislation, I'd love to see him say, look, it hasn't brought any jobs to this state. It hasn't made us more competitive. All it's done is tried to limit the influence of organized labor. Perhaps we need to rethink why we would pass that. It was obviously purely a political bill. But that's the state we live in.
Well, we're going to cross our fingers that everything works out, and the taxes thing. I'm sure you're going to be back in the hot seat telling us a little bit more about that later.
Oh, sure.
And what plans out. And
before long, we're going to hear what our local tax bills are going to look like in the next 3-4 weeks. So we'll be back on here. Maybe we can get Martha Lake, our county auditor, or Jamie Shepard, our county assessor, in here to talk with you and share with people what
break it down in layman's terms, so that even people like myself can truly get a grasp of.
So Martha and Jamie, if you're watching, listening, or you catch the replay, we'd like to
get ready, because you're coming.
Absolutely.
Thank you for coming in today.
No problem.
And I can't wait to see you back telling us more exciting stuff. Check out this week's Kokomo Perspective. It's new. It's on the shelves right now. You definitely don't want to miss it, because there's more stuff about taxes and all the stuff you need to know about Howard County and Kokomo this week. Thank you, Pat.
Thank you.